Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome to today's video in Blind Woman Reviews. This is a review for Empire of Storms. This is the last review I have for now for Sarah J. Maas related books. I will be, of course, reviewing Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash soon. I don't know when. I don't have a date. I just review them. So, yay to all that. So, I will be reviewing all of that soon, and of course, A Court of Thorns and Roses will come, and the first books in the Crescent City series. So, look up for that. But for now, let's do Empire of Storms. I have a playlist of my previous Throne of Glass related things linked in the description, so check it out. And also, I said it before, but read Assassin's Blade before this review. Anyway, let's begin. Oh, wait. Also, before I begin, spoilers. There will be spoilers throughout the video, most likely for this book and probably previous books if they come up, but there will be spoilers, so keep an eye on that. And yeah. Kingdoms will collide. The long path to the throne has only just begun for Aelin Galathinius as war looms on the horizon. Loyalties have been broken and bought, friends have been lost and gained, and those who possess magic find themselves at odds with those who don't. With her heart sworn to the warrior prince by her side and her fealty pledged to the people she is determined to save, Aelin will delve into the depths of her power to protect those she loves. But as monsters emerge from the horrors of the past and dark forces become poised to claim her world, the only chance for salvation will lie in a desperate quest that may mark the end of everything Aelin holds dear. In this breathtaking fifth installment of the New York Times best-selling Throne of Glass series, Aelin will have to choose what and who to sacrifice if she's to keep the world of Aurelia from breaking apart. This book is full of action. I just want to say that. This book is full of a bunch of, like, there's so much happening in this book that it's genuinely super hard to, like, I don't know how to explain. It just is hard to keep, it's hard to just say, like, it's hard to give these characters a break. Everything happens. Everything kind of goes, everything goes wrong in different ways. And I find this to be interesting just because there's very rarely, a happy moment. It's just, everything sort of goes wrong. Aelin, for example, is hoping to get her throne back, but the Lords of Terrasen, due to a rule, manage to say, no, we will not do that, and they don't accept her as queen. So now she has to, now she basically has to, she can't rule, which Adian is not happy with, and she ends up having to, one of the lords, Lord Darrow, literally tells her, you know, you want to show your loyalty, you know, find allies, like, even if, like, they're also not happy with the fact that she is with Rowan. They're not happy with that, and they're like, you know, you want to be helpful, find allies, find people to, like, find us allies, which she does. And this is where Assassin's Blade really shines. In this book, Assassin's Blade shines for real because there's a lot happening based on it. and everything based on like at least two novellas. Like there's so much that happens. This is where all the books come together. Empire Storms is where Throne of Glass shines like nothing else. Like it is lovely. So I think this is where everything kind of shines, because when he tells her to find allies, she does, and she leaves by telling him that the same way that he turned his back on her, she will not do to Terrasen. And she leaves with Lysandra and everybody else. They leave Evangeline behind, of course, and ask one of the lords to take care of her. And she swears, Aelin swears that if any harm happens to Evangeline, everyone will pretty much die. The person will die. The people will die if any harm comes. It means that if they could not even keep a child safe, it's not worth for them to live. She herself promised that they would die. So it's interesting. And this is where it all kind of shines and culminates, because Dorian is now king, and he has freed all the kingdoms that were conquered by Otterlin. He freed them, which means Eowyn is now free too. So Aelin also kept her oath to Nehemia. We find out a little bit more about that in this book. It's so very sad and so very interesting at once. But basically, yes, we know now, like we knew we know a bunch of things based on Empire Storms, and this is where everything kind of culminates. But she basically kept her oath to Nehemia, and then there is now she does need she does need alliances. So she goes in search of alliances. Of course, she's not going to be married. She's not going to marry, because she is with Rowan, and she doesn't want to. She doesn't really want to get married with anybody else. So she isn't offering her hand in marriage. But what she is doing is she is calling on debts to her bloodline and to her. And we meet Lord Ralph, he was basically pirate lord, lord of all pirates. And basically we met him in The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, where he basically, he was going to do a trade of slaves with like a deal with Arabin, and Selena basically ended up freeing about 200 slaves and messing up the deal, which also got her punished by Arabin. But she didn't really, she did herself say, it was worth it, and everything. So we meet him again, and she wants him to ally to her cause, and so she does everything possible to do so. And she does find out that she does end up asking about the slaves, and she finds out that he hasn't gone out of their way. They haven't gone out of their way to provide shelter, but any slaves that come and show up have been granted shelter in Skulls Bay. And it turns out that Rolf is part of a long believed dead people known as the Mycenaeans, and she ends up knowing exactly where they are. He's like, okay. She calls in a bloodline debt from them, and she ends up having him, giving him all his titles, like Lord of all pirates, King of the Archipelagos, I think it's called, or something like that, Archipelagos or something, and saying, and also Lord of the Mycenaeans, and her and Dorian end up recognizing him as all these titles, and so he becomes an ally after she calls in these debts. But the Mycenaeans had to be pulled out from hiding because they would only apparently go along if they saw like a sea dragon. So Lysandra and her kind of made a plan where Lysandra would study the carving, and she would end up shifting into this sea dragon. And so now that was one bloodline called, and then there were other bloodlines called, other debts called out, other life debts. She called Aelin basically called every single debt she had, and so owed her a life debt. And so she ended up for like going with her soldiers. And Ansel is also known as Queen of the Wastes now because she got it to live, like people can live there, which Minon was very annoyed because she speaks she thinks she's Queen of the Wastes and speaks for the people of the Wastes, and because the Wastes was once the witches' homes, and she's like, they're not, they like, and at the end though, Ansel and her kind of don't get along with that, but even Aylin's like, if you're not living there, so she speaks for them, right? But also Ansel kind of also took Melisandre's fleet, and now they're using that as part of Aylin's army. So she calls Ansel. Ansel is, we met her in Assassin's Blade again, in the Assassin in the Desert, where she basically, her and Aylin were friends, but there was a betrayal because Ansel wanted to get Briarcliff back. Ansel Briarcliff, she kind of wanted to get her back to her castle and kill the man that kind of conquered it. And she ended up working with the Lord of Xandria, and all they wanted was the Mute Master's. He wanted was the Mute Master's head in order to give it to the king. But so she ended up betraying Aylin, not to mention, and 1 second. Okay, anyway, so basically Ansel kind of betrayed Aylin, as well as everyone everyone pretty much in that fortress, everyone who kind of believed in her, she betrayed, including her boyfriend, I guess, basically. And she ended up betraying everybody in order to get what she wanted. And Aylin had her leave and tell her that if she wasn't gone in 20 minutes, she would kill her with an arrow. But she ended up giving her 21 minutes, and her arrow missed, basically. And Aylin called in that debt. And it turns out that Ansel, though, did actually try to rescue her from Endovier, which I thought was pretty interesting, because she did try to rescue her, but it turns out she wasn't there, and she ended up going back. But it was great that she tried to rescue her and said she couldn't forget, what Aylin had done. And I thought that was a very great thing to bring back, because honestly, I think that anything like that, it is kind of interesting, because this proves, in this story, the smallest things that you do, that Aylin has done, kind of come back. And 1 second again. Sorry, you guys. Orange juice. It's the best way I can explain this. I had orange juice, and my mom made orange juice for me, so yes. Anyway, if I'm where was I? I lost my train of thought, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, Ansel and Aylin. The smaller changes. I remember now. So everything small that Aylin has done, anything small, big or small, but I love specifically the smaller things, but anything big or small is kind of coming back now in Empire of Storms, and it's becoming really important. And I will talk more about that a lot, especially in, I think, Tower of Dawn and Kingdom of Ash, because that's where it really goes well. But yes, so things big and small, everything she has done is kind of, every debt that she has, every even if she hasn't considered debt, is kind of coming back in a way that in order to help her now fight this war. So she has these two things now, and then come by the end of Empire of Storms, every single debt that is owed to Aylin and the bloodline and her bloodline have been called. And one of my favorite ones, it has to be the one from Wenlin, because she went to Wenlin to try to go to Doranel in Heir of Fire, and when Mistward was being attacked, they sent word to the to the royal family of Wenlin, because it was also their people, because they were half human, half fae, and basically they ended up they weren't able to send people. And she ended up sending a letter, a very angry letter, to to, what is her name? Galen, Prince Galen, who actually kind of controls their armada, and he said, she said something along the lines of, do you remember Evelyn, Astra Galathinius, Terracin does, I helped your people out at Mistward, return the goddamn favor. And I was like, yes, now that's a good letter. But that was the only note that was sent to him. And he ended up arriving with his army. The silent assassins also ended up arriving with their assassins to help her, because they also owe Selena a life, or Selena / Aelin now, a life debt. So every single debt, small or big, has been collected, and now everyone is together and is basically on the way to Terracin to fight the war. Aelin, meanwhile, is trying to search for a way to return the word keys to back, basically just return them to the gate and close the gate and stuff like that. So she's trying to do that, and Elena kind of sent her on a quest in a way to find it, gives her an idea of where it is, and she goes on this thing all the way to Eelway, the marshes of Eelway, and all she finds is a chest with a mirror, like it's a witch mirror, it turns out, and it turns out that it's identified by Manon, who kind of becomes a part of their group in a way. At first she's imprisoned, but then Dorian sort of manages for her to kind of get out a little bit. And also, very interestingly, Dorian and Manon start a physical relationship. It's definitely not shown as romantic. I don't feel. I don't interpret it romantically. It seems to be more like a more physical than anything else, especially after Sorsha. So yeah, anyway, they start something, and I found it kind of interesting. What else? Oh, okay. So basically that's a thing, and they don't know how that mirror, it's basically not a lock, so they don't know how that mirror is supposed to work. They don't know how any of that is supposed to be. But also, Deanna also has once even took over Aelin's body as well, and so that was very hard to see. And this book also seemed to prove to me that this is not young adult. Although it seems to be YA, it's definitely not young adult. It feels more like new adult or adult, because in Empire of Storms there are at least 3 graphic sex scenes. This is definitely more adult, new adult to adult, because this is definitely not YA. There are at least 3 graphic sex scenes in this book. So I just, and definitely some implications of sex. So I thought I would basically bring that up. So yeah, if you are a young adult reading this series, once you get to Empire Storms, there's definitely a lot to consider. I think it's fine. It's okay, because let's be honest, teenagers and everything, they know all about this, so you're really not doing too much. You're not over, I don't feel like you're overdoing certain things. They have probably already seen rated R movies, and you as parents don't even know it. So I don't find it to be a big deal or even a big deal breaker. But basically, yeah, that's a thing. And the relationship between Rowan and Aelin is definitely growing, and it's definitely getting more interesting. Especially, yeah, it's just getting more interesting in general. Aedion finally meets his actual father, Gavriel, who he yells at in the first meeting because of the reason that his mother died. since technically the reason she didn't ask for any help from Faye is because she was afraid that Maeve would take Adian, and I thought that was very sad. But also very it sounds like very true too. So Gabriel and him kind of start off in a pretty bad relationship in that case. Elide is trying to make her way to Terrasen and give Selena Sardathian this key, but also meet Aelin, and she ends up meeting Lorcan, and they form a sort of an alliance. They're both kind of lying to each other in a way. She literally goes by Marion's name, by her mother's name for a time, and Lorcan does protect her, even though she thinks he'll eventually abandon her when she got what he needed about the Red Keys, or about the Morath in general, but he didn't, until the end when Elide finds out that everything he did was that he lied a lot to her, and that, and in general everybody, and that everything he did, he put people in danger, and like her queen and everybody else was in danger because of him, and she yells at him and everything, and he was also asking for her he did ask for her forgiveness because he wanted to save her, but it was a little too late, Lorcan. Way too late. But Elide does reunite with Aelin, and Aelin delivers her Marion's last message, which I thought was very, very nice and very sweet. And of course, she becomes pretty much a lady of Aelin's court in a way. And it was it's definitely something interesting. And I think I think their reunion was very cute, very sweet. And Adian is, of course, mad at Elide's uncle, and why shouldn't he? And he plans to make him pay for everything he did. And especially, I would be angry too, especially by Queen of Shadows, when he attempted to have Elide basically be used to breed one of the I guess monsters that were being created with witches in Vogue, and I was just that was insane. I feel like that was definitely an interesting an interesting part of that, but he wanted to basically use to see how her bloodline might help in this whole thing, but now Adian plans to make him pay, of course. By the end of Empire of Storms, we find out a bunch of things that Aelin has done. A lot of it off screen, kind of like in Queen of Shadows. But she did what she could to help Terrasen, and at the end, she realized that, she was Rowan's mate, and that Maeve lied to Rowan and broke him enough that he didn't even recognize her as his mate, which, ouch. And we also find out that she she basically married Rowan in order to give the kingdom a legal king, and Maeve ended up capturing her and forcing her to go with her so that nobody else kind of died, and mainly so that Elide wouldn't get tortured. And she ended up being put in this coffin of iron, like she was chained, there was a mask of iron on her face, and she was put in this coffin, and she was even whipped by Cairn, who basically is this really sadistic dude, and it was taken by Maeve, and now by the end of it, Adian and everybody else kind of finds out that, Aelin assembled an army, but also she married Rowan, and that Lysandra would have to be Aelin basically, and for her whole life. And the way that it wouldn't be shown is that outwardly it would look like she was married to Rowan, but she would sire the children with Adian in order for them to still look like the Ash River line. And now Adian is basically mad at Lysandra, and also mad at Aelin, and now Rowan, Lorcan, Gavriel and Elide leave everything in order to help in order to find Aelin again, and everybody else goes to Terrasen by the end. But I love how everything culminates in Empire of Storms, and every single death, everything she has done comes back in a way that's like it's gonna be very helpful by the end. So I love it. Let me know what you think of Empire Storms in the comments. Check out the description for links. Also, I will be back with a review on the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I actually ended up reading for school, but I feel like I just want to talk about it, so I'm gonna do it. I actually considered doing a review of another short story I read for class, but I feel like there's not enough to talk about it in a review. So for me, like, I can't give a full-on discussion as a video, so I'm not doing it. But I decided to go with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy because it's interesting, and I wanted to talk about some of the things I found interesting. So yeah. It's interesting. So until next time, everyone, happy reading and enjoy tomorrow's review, and then also enjoy Tuesdays, because that's when I will be coming with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy review on Tuesday. So enjoy that. I hope you guys have a great day and happy reading.